You are listening to KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank, your partner in possible.
Hello and welcome into another Three-Mile Pod. I am John Kurtz, joined by Derek Young of K-State Online, Cole Manbeck, former beat writer for the Manhattan Mercury. Let's just get right to it. We're going to need some 360 vodka, some Ben Holiday Bottled and Bond bourbon to get through this one here today. I think everybody probably at this point needs copious amounts of that. Make sure and go support our friends at Holiday Distillery by getting your Ben Holiday Bottled and Bond bourbon, your 360 vodka, whichever one sounds better. Maybe mix the two. You know, hell, I don't know at this point. You just lost to the two last place teams in the league back to back. Things are a little bit rough right now, but we'll get through it, I promise. And Holiday Distillery is here to help you get through it now. I kid a little bit there in the intro, but man, I don't know. It's been a brutal week or so here. I mean, really, if you want to extrapolate this back to post-Kansas game, it just feels like this team has not been quite the same, and it's been teetering on something like this, but they've still had nice performances. They did have the win over TCU. They should have beaten Texas at home, but wound up blowing that game. But now it kind of feels like the bottom has fallen out a little bit here. It feels like we're getting close to what's hopefully a low point with now a 7-6 season, Big 12 championship aspirations out the window, and Jerome Tang after the game in Norman telling the guys they've got to win 2 more games just to make the NCAA tournament. I mean, we were talking about this team being a 1 seed with Gary Parrish, by the way, not just us. Just a couple of weeks ago, was not that long ago. So I don't know who wants to follow that. I know you guys are both raising your hands, excited to talk about this right now. But somebody take it away from me, please. What's the state of the union here?
Yeah, I'll jump in here and say that, and part of it is probably a regression to the mean, and by that probably just an overcorrection at this point. They were probably playing above their heads, so to speak. I think that's kind of the term that's typically shared when a team is over exceeding expectations, or maybe what everyone thought they were going to get from them. And now we're getting the reverse side, where we're probably getting below, in terms of performance, getting below what we anticipated from Kansas State. A 6-1 start included road wins at Texas and Baylor. Even Jerome Tang, I think it was after the Texas Tech game, called those wins at this point a bit of an anomaly, just because they were able to outscore those two teams. And that kind of got me to thinking that Kansas State is who they are at this point. And that's a team that probably doesn't have the kind of defense that it requires to win on the road when they're not shooting an absurd percentage from the field like they were against Texas and Baylor. The defense is not reliable enough. They're getting enough defense to where they can win with the defense at home, and they got the crowd at their back. But aside from that, I just don't know. So if they're not shooting well, if they're not outscoring a team on the road, it's going to be tough sledding for the Wildcats. And I think that's the point that we've reached. And kind of getting back to the regression to the mean thing, I think the biggest crime is that they probably set a standard and a level of expectations that was probably unrealistic for them. Because before the year, we didn't think that they were a Big 12 title contender when this season began. And then they start 6-1, and you can start, dreaming of that. And then I think you're 7-2, 7-3 at some point too, and still within reach. So I think the biggest crime is probably setting a certain standard of expectations, because if that hot start doesn't happen, if you're sitting here right now, I know 7-6 still isn't great. If you're sitting right here right now, 7-6, with the win over KU and probably going to make the NCAA tournament, I think most people would have been pleased with that.
Yeah, I said maybe, I think it was after the 4-0 start, I said on this podcast that I hope fans keep some perspective. While it's fun to talk about the Big 12 championship, if this team ended up being 9-9 or 10-8 in Big 12 play, that would still be a major success for this program coming into the season with the expectations that were in play. And if you get to 10-8, you're probably still talking about a top 5 seed in the NCAA tournament. Now you go 9-9, probably you're a 6 or a 7, but we'll see who those wins occur against. I certainly think that they've hit a bit of a wall, and I wonder if legs also are playing a part. I think opponents have obviously adjusted to K-State, and as you go through and play some of these teams a second time, it's becoming more challenging as well, even though Oklahoma last night was the first matchup this year between the teams, but I think the Big 12 has adjusted, and I think legs are playing a part of this. I think Keontae Johnson, Marquise Noel, they've relied on them. They have a high usage rate. The ball is in their hands a lot. They played a lot of minutes, and I think that's played a part, and you just hope that they can find a way to bounce back here down the stretch run as they make a push. And then as you get out of Big 12 play and you get into the NCAA tournament, hopefully that's a refreshing start as you play teams that don't know you as well in March Madness and, can make a little bit of a run in the NCAA tournament. So that's what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping they can bounce back, and they've been good at home, obviously. They were a bit of a second half collapse against Texas from being undefeated at home. So hopefully they can bounce back against Iowa State on Saturday. But look, I'm just being a beacon of positivity, guys. I decided to be positive on Twitter last night. I'm not jumping completely off of the bandwagon because I think it's important to keep perspective on where this thing was coming into the season. And, the bottom line is I don't think K-State probably has top 15 talent or depth overall in the country. And so they were playing out ahead of themselves a little bit. And it's certainly disappointing when you look at the Tech game and you look at last night, like what upset me about last night was a lot of it was effort. I'm not going to name names, but you saw some guys take a lot of plays off on the defensive end of the floor and just weren't playing at max effort. And that was disappointing to me. And Jerome Tang called that out after the game, that effort was certainly an issue, and it's only been an issue a couple times this year. He mentioned the road game at TCU as well. That was disheartening. And, the defense was very poor last night. And, when you're playing in front of a, 3/4 empty Lloyd Noble Center, that's one you really need to get that win. And to get beat by 14, that's a tough one to swallow.
And not just that, but lose before that to Tech, who, yes, I realize they did come back around and beat Texas too, and it's not the easiest place in the world. But, it was shorthanded Texas Tech not playing their A game. That was not – both of those were just bad performances. And I'm with you, Cole. Like, I tried to tweet something to this effect last night. Like, yes, we can't lose sight of the ultimate thing here, which is that, yeah, we would all have taken this in a heartbeat. I think to be sitting here with 19 wins, 7-6 in the league at this point. We know that this was a roster thrown together last minute. I'm not going to hold Tang's feet to the fire on this and be like, man, even with this roster that you brought in yourself, it was a scramble mode to get these guys in here. And what they've accomplished already, assuming that they do make the tournament, which I'm not even sure that they have to win 2 more games to do that, like Tang said. I think they're going to be in the tournament. It's going to be a very successful season overall, but that can be true. And also this fact is true. K-State has played like the worst team in the league by far the last week. These last 2 games have been dreadful. So when you say expect to win after the Kansas game, which great speech. And by the way, great job by Jerome Tang of taking advantage of that moment to kill the chant and all that, because it would be a little bit tougher now based on how the season has gone. But I think hit all the right notes as far as that is concerned. But one of those notes was, hey guys, expect to win. Like we're a good team. I want these sort of expectations, championship expectations here. And when you've poked and prodded at the fan base, and I say that it seems like it has a negative connotation. I think it's been in a good way, but poked and prodded the fan base this year. Then when you go out and play like the worst team in the league in back-to-back games against the worst 2 teams in the league, people are going to be pretty frustrated, and it's going to be pretty alarming and pretty jarring to watch. So that's it. I'm very happy with where the program's at. I think once the top 20 recruiting class that they have coming in next year gets here and they get time to go to the portal and take some actual success to guys in the portal this year with more time, I'm wildly optimistic about where the future of this program is going. I am not, however, wildly optimistic about where the future of this season is going. And after watching the 2 games last night, or the 2 games over the last week, it's hard not to be in the sunken place right now about it.
Yeah, it's fair to be frustrated. They're playing poor basketball right now. That doesn't mean they can't shake it off. Maybe they won't. None of us know that. There isn't a whole lot of commentary, I guess, to add, but it is fair to be frustrated right now. It is fair to be, like Jerome Tang, like this team, to have enjoyed at one point what they were doing, and to also be frustrated right now. I think all of those things can be true. I guess I don't distinguish them or eliminate the idea that you can't be frustrated. You could be frustrated. They want passionate fans. Passion happens both ways.
Yeah, I was frustrated during the game last night. It was frustrating watching the Texas Tech game and what unfolded because, like you said, John, with the Texas Tech game, like Texas Tech, when they beat Texas on Monday night, they played much better against Texas. Like that was a more inspired effort in that win that the Red Raiders had. But when they played K-State Saturday, I didn't feel like Texas Tech really did anything special. It felt like if K-State just played average basketball that night, they win by 8 to 10 points. So that's one that really just felt like they completely gave away to Tech. And so that one hurt. OU last night was catching fire. Now, again, I know they were 29. This KSU fan had told us they were 29% from three in Big 12 play coming into that game. And but they were just getting such open looks and good shooters like Grant Sherfield, who's a 42% three-point shooter, getting wide open looks. K-State was over-rotating on defense. I do think, specifically on the court, I think they have a defensive problem where they switch everything. I don't like that. I think they get into a ton of mismatches. Like sometimes they switch when you're not even trying to fight through a screen. Like just the 3-man dribble weave at the top of the key, they're switching everything instead of fighting through. And that leads to a lot of mismatches. And when you've got Marquise on the court, who's a 5'7" point guard, it becomes a little more problematic because then you get him sometimes on a guy that's 6'9", 6'10", and that becomes an issue. And then also Marquise sometimes is prone to, kind of roving around the court trying to get a steal, and he leaves his shooter wide open for a three. And that happened a few times last night. And sometimes the benefits are great with that, but other times it comes back to bite him, and it bit him last night. So the defense was poor last night. And, as a result, Oklahoma catches fire from three, hits 11 threes. And I just thought OU played tougher. I thought Tech played tougher against K-State. And that's, you saw Tanner Groves last night. He was just playing physical in the post against K-State and trying to out-tough them, and K-State didn't have an answer. And so they got to start playing a tougher brand of basketball and get after it. But, I'm not going to jump off the ship yet. I need to see it now to believe it. Like I'm at that point because like entering last night, I still believed that, last night they'd come out, play inspired, have a bounce back moment, and they didn't. So now I'm kind of to the point where, all right, let's see a little stretch put together here where we see them, come out, play really sharp basketball for consecutive games. Hopefully that starts Saturday, and then Tuesday night against Baylor. And, you find a way to win Saturday, and I'm not going to write the Baylor game as a loss. This team's just different at home. If there's any way you could pull off those 2 wins, people would be thinking a lot differently about this team again. So, we'll see what happens over the next week. It's a big week for this program.
I mean, I'm with you. I just kind of, at this point, I'm not totally giving up on them, but as you can tell, I'm not real optimistic. And even before these 2 games, I've been, again, they've been trending downward for, in general, a month-ish at this point. Since the KU game, they've been trending down. And I've been sitting here thinking like, okay, we may have to recalibrate and adjust. The Texas loss was like, all right, you're probably not winning the league. Probably need to recalibrate a little bit there. But I thought, well, we've seen enough here, enough good. When P and Keese are both going, this team can be like Final Four caliber, like really good. So they were inevitably going to hit a wall. I get it. The Big 12's a grind. It's tough. But let's just hope. My hope at that point was hopefully by the last week of the regular season, heading into the postseason, they'll have figured it out again and kind of be re-energized, and maybe the timing will work out pretty good on this. After the last 2 games, I'm like, the problems are bigger and deeper apparently than I thought. And I just, this is beyond just the grind of the Big 12 and all that. There are a lot of problems. I mean, they don't defend well at all consistently. You guys have pointed that out, particularly on the road. Turnovers, well, not as big of a problem necessarily last night, have obviously been just a huge issue. It's like the mistakes that they make are they're pretty frustrating to watch, and nothing seems to really, I guess I would just end like, where is the hope? Cole, maybe I'll put that back on you since you're positive guy tonight.
Well, go ahead, DY.
Okay, all right, with DY. Okay, hope for DY. Hashtag hope for DY. All right, give us some hope then, DY.
I'm going to make a point that I wanted to make earlier that I forgot, just so I don't lose it, and then I'll go to the glass half full approach that I think you can maybe extract. And it does go back to past precedent a little bit. At halftime, Kansas State against Oklahoma on Tuesday night, they led in points in the paint, second chance points, and points off turnovers. Those have been the three most problematic areas for Kansas State all season. When typically things are just completely not going their way, they're usually getting manipulated pretty well in those three phases. They were winning those three phases, and the game was tied. So, and it was because of what was happening at the 3-point line. Oklahoma was shooting really, really well from it. Kansas State was shooting really, really poor from it. So there was a point where it's like, okay, this is either a good sign because the shots are going to fall and they resurrected those three areas and it's going to be fine for Kansas State, or it's a really, really bad sign because you've cleaned up the three problematic areas and you're still only tied. And obviously the latter ended up being true. So that was the problematic. So that's glass half empty there. Glass half full. Two things that I've kind of been like working on and probably going to fit it into a story at some point. Just look a season ago. It's not identical. It's not like looking in the mirror, but this path and journey that Kansas State is taking looks a hell of a lot like TJ Otzelberger's first year at Iowa State. They got off to an absolute scorching start last season where I think they jumped into the top 10 and year one under TJ Otzelberger, largely because of their work during the non-conference play against really good teams. So the schedule is a little bit different because Kansas State probably did what Iowa State did in non-conference at the beginning of their conference schedule by beating Texas on the road, Baylor on the road. But those things were pretty similar. Then Iowa State hit a really bad stretch as well. It fell out of the top 25. I think there was a point where like, are they really a tournament team? And they've fallen that completely out of it. And then all of a sudden the wheels started turning in their favor again. And they ended up with a pretty poor Big 12 record. Didn't compete for a Big 12 title.
They were 7-11.
But they made the Sweet 16. So, and that, what I would say from that is that what you're doing in February doesn't always matter. And I know that sucks to watch and it's painful to watch. It's not a good product. It's not entertaining. It doesn't feel good. It's frustrating. It's frustrating for fans. I can't imagine what they're feeling in the ice facility right now. It's frustrating for them. They don't like losing. They don't want to lose. But usually you're going to snap out of it. You're not going to, there's always, a little end of the rainbow there, so to speak. It didn't have to be, but sometimes there is. And if there is for Kansas State, they're going to start matriculating in a positive upward trajectory and maybe hit their stride once again at almost the perfect time. Because you hear it, look, I know it sounds like I'm, really searching for reaching here, and I could be. But if they were to turn it around, if they were to resurrect what's happening right now, it's going to be right before the tournament and right before a potential March run. So if they were to snap out of it, if they were to break free from this skid, it's going to be them perhaps peaking again right at the right time. And something that they've said all along, and I know they're not losing right now on purpose, but something they said all along is they want to be playing their best basketball in March. That's not completely unattainable.
Yeah, I guess to me it's just, I'm with you. And I still do tend to kind of believe in that, but I'm not seeing like the tangible sign. To me, it's where are the adjustments right now to get Marquise and Keontae going? Like that is clearly, Tang told the broadcast crew last night because, shout out to my guy, James Wessling, who was doing the game. He said, we asked Tang, what do you need tonight to win the game? He said, we got to get our two big dogs going, our two big guys. And I mean, Marquise and Keontae have just been in funks. There's no, Keontae, I think some of it probably is because of the way Big 12 officials have really targeted him and it's changed some of the way he's playing offensively. But if I had faith or signs that there just has not been a counterpunch yet. And I think Jerome Tang showed us coaching chops early in the year. So hopefully you're right, D-White. It is still coming, but I'm searching around for answers and I'm not sure where the tangible answers are. As nice as the narrative arc of hey, being Iowa State and kicking it into gear in March sounds great. Hopefully that happens.
I'm with you, and I like Cole kind of take his glass half full approach as well. I'm with you, but I think Iowa State probably felt like I keep going back to it. I'm with you, but there is no positive signs to extract right now because they just probably played two and a half of their worst games of basketball. Second half against Texas, the way you lost that lead, and then it kind of looked like a lifeless effort a little bit in that second half. Losing to Texas Tech in Lubbock when Texas Tech didn't play good. It's not like Texas Tech had to play above their heads to win that game. And then again, maybe, an uninspired effort at Oklahoma. There is no signs there. But again, you can go back to Iowa State last year. There was no signs for them in February either. Like you said, they fell to 7-11. For Kansas State to be 7-11 in conference play, they don't win another game, right? So they're almost still in a better spot than Iowa State was at the same time. And if you remember, and you should remember because we watched this game together at a bar last year, I believe, with Iowa State the way they were going. Kansas State is the one that had the second half come back against Iowa State. And I believe towards the end of that season for Iowa State, they were struggling to score 40 points, right? They were in the 40s so many times. I think they had 2 games where they scored less than 40. I mean, they had Isaiah Brockington or they had nothing.
Yeah, a few things here. DY, to the point you made about March and the NCAA tournament and Iowa State making a Sweet 16 run, that gets back to my point of just getting out of the grind of Big 12 play and seeing somebody new for the first time after this 3-month grueling stretch, I think will be beneficial for this team. New scouting reports, teams that haven't seen you before. It's a different animal. I think that will be beneficial for this team. I think it'll be beneficial for everybody in the Big 12. It's exhausting going through this gauntlet, and for everybody to just play somebody different. You saw it during the SEC Big 12 Challenge, right? I mean, Big 12 goes 7-3, got a break from that, and really probably go 8-2 if Miles doesn't get hurt for TCU against Mississippi State. So keep that perspective, get to the NCAA tournament, try to make a run into the second weekend. I think everybody would be thrilled with that. When you look at last night's loss against Oklahoma, you look at the Texas Tech loss, we talk about these losses like they're just horrific, awful losses, right? And I get it. They're last place. They're the 2 bottom teams in the Big 12. They're both quad 1 losses, all right? Oklahoma is 65th in the net today. The top 75 road game is a quad 1 win or loss. Texas Tech 62 in the net today. These aren't bad losses when the NCAA tournament looks at the resume. They don't look at the Big 12 standings and see that. They look and see this is a top 65 loss in the country. In Ken Palm, both these teams are top 65 in the country as well. They're not going to look at it like some awful loss. Most teams in the country have quad 3, quad 4 losses at this point. K-State doesn't have that. They don't have bad losses on their resume. Butler is probably their worst loss, and it's a quad 2 loss on the road there. So that's another thing to keep in mind. Also, people need to remember that Oklahoma, we act like, that it should have been an easy win per se, or they definitely needed to win that game. Oklahoma 2 weeks ago beat the number 1 team in the country currently by 24 points. Like, they have the capability within them to go off and beat teams. Oklahoma led Kansas by 10 with 4 minutes left in the game in Allen Fieldhouse. All right, now I know they haven't been playing great. They haven't been playing well at all, but they have it within them to, have a big game. They lost to Texas by 1 in Norman. They lost to Iowa State by 3 in Norman. They lost to Baylor 62-60 in Norman. Best teams have gone into Norman and barely come out with a win. And so they have the ability to do what they did last night. And I mentioned this on Twitter last night, and, some K-State fans appreciated it. Some hated the positivity. I get it. Some are in just a negative state of mind right now. But most teams in the Big 12, most of the best teams have had a rough stretch at some point. Texas is really the only team that has avoided it, but Texas just lost to Texas Tech. We'll see if they have a rough stretch coming, because they've now lost back-to-back games between at KU and then losing to Texas Tech. So actually, they lost 2 of their last 3. I'm sorry. They beat West Virginia, crushed them, sandwiched in between. But we'll see if they have that rough stretch coming. Look at the back end of Texas's schedule. There's a very good chance they lose their final 3 games to conclude Big 12 play. So that could be coming for them. Iowa State, how do you think Iowa State feels right now? They're 16-8. They were feeling great about their year. They're top 20 in the country. K-State's 19-6. They're sitting at 16-8. They've lost 5 of their last 7 games overall. K-State's lost 5 of their last 7 games overall. Iowa State just lost to Oklahoma State and Stillwater. And look, I know we're recording this on Wednesday. Iowa State's going to lose tonight to TCU in Hilton. All right, so I'm predicting that, and Iowa State's going to be in quite the tailspin coming into Manhattan. And KU lost 4 of 5 games earlier in January and snapped out of it. Now look, Bill Self, it's a different animal. Like you knew they would come back from that. TCU's lost 3 in a row currently. Oklahoma State, who's a top 6 team in the Big 12, lost 4 of 5 to start Big 12 play. Baylor started Big 12 play 0-3, and look where they're at now. So it stings that back-to-back losses against the 2 bottom feeders in the league right now. But just to keep some perspective, teams have gone through this in the Big 12 and come out of it. You just got to hope K-State has an answer. And that's what we'll see over the next couple of weeks, is if they can respond and bounce back. And it starts Saturday against Iowa State. And what I hope is an electric atmosphere. It's a top 20 matchup still in Bramlage Coliseum. We would have killed for that the last 3 seasons. Think about what we've endured. I saw people in my mentions, why should I even go to the game? This game doesn't matter. They'll make the tournament still. It matters. I mean, it's a big game in Bramlage. You know, I would kill for this.
You can be frustrated and you can be pissed off. I'm not going to tell anyone not to be. I mean, I was frustrated watching the last few weeks. But you can do that, but also want Bramlage Coliseum to be rocking enough to help your team win too. I don't think those 2 items have to be separate. If it pours into the one, then it happens. I'm not going to sit here and criticize you for it, but if you want to win bad, having a rocking Bramlage Coliseum and a loud home environment can help your team win.
Well, yeah, I mean, support the team, obviously. And I mean, that's one thing that was a part of the message that I was trying to get out last night. Again, that you guys have totally outlined. There's still a lot of basketball left to be played, a lot of time to turn a season around. And ultimately, the blessing and the curse of college basketball is that the NCAA tournament is really the arbiter of everything. That's how you're going to feel about your season, is how well things go in that final tournament, right? How many times have we seen that at K-State, right? Bruce winning the Big 12, going and losing as a 4 seed in the first round. It totally changes the tenor of the season. So the opportunity for that is 100% there. Do not give up on these guys. Yes, continue to want to watch winning basketball at home for sure. It's clear that environment makes a huge difference because, I mean, I think this team has pretty much been the same kind of team. I mean, a little bit worse the last week. They've been pretty much the same team for a month, but when they're at home and playing a shorthanded TCU, they can win and they can hit, as Bruce Weber would say, the magic level for 3 minutes there at the end of the game, which has been, the only time it feels like it's been really fun to watch this team in a while. And they can almost beat Texas. So the atmosphere of the building makes a huge difference. Go do that. They need, even if you say, hey, whenever they're going to make the NCAA tournament, it's not that big of a game. Guys, they need something just to turn this thing the hell around. They need something. They need a stopper right now. They need something just to get the momentum moving back in the right direction. So be a part of that for sure, 100%. And yes, other teams have had very rough stretches in this league. It is a bear, and I think one of the most valid points that's been made here on this pod is just everybody is going to be better off for having gotten out of this grind when they do to go to the NCAA tournament. I think that will definitely help. Having said all of that, I just come back to the trend line has been I felt like the negative stretch after the Texas game. I was like, okay, here's the wake up call. That's been such a negative stretch. This is going to be it. They're going to have this big watershed moment and turn it around. And then, it's like even the TCU game at home was great. And by the way, Cole and I drove there on a Tuesday night and got back at 1 a.m. to still go support the team. Super fun at the end of the game. But for 90% of that game, I felt like they were still the same team. They were just playing a shorthanded TCU squad at home. And so it was getting them over the hump a little bit. But that to me is the concern. This trend line has been going this way for a long time, and it's getting worse before it is getting better. So I hear you. Everyone has rough stretches, but we're in a 7-game rough patch right now that is showing no signs of getting better and is getting worse. So I hate to be that guy too much here, and I hope that you guys are the ones that are correct, and I think there is a very good chance that they turn it around and play better before the end of the season. But if it's going to come from something and somewhere that we haven't seen since January for sure.
They haven't won back-to-back games since January 21st when they beat Texas Tech right after KU. So they're not playing well. Nothing that you said is wrong. I'm not even promising that they're going to snap out of it. If you put a gun to my head, I think they do. But like you said, there's really no clear-cut signs that it's going to happen. But again, what if you're just going to? It's easier to be optimistic. I guess it's a little bit more easier on the mind. So I would encourage people to try to take that approach. And they're really good. They haven't been playing good basketball, but they are a good team at home. And obviously the atmosphere has mattered because Kansas State is one bad half from being undefeated at home. let's just keep that up.
Yeah. I think that's all great perspective. If they're going to snap out of it, it needs to start Saturday. It has to start Saturday because the Baylor game on Tuesday night is going to be an absolute, I think Baylor, to be honest, is the best team in the league right now. They're right there with KU the way they're playing. And so that'll be a heck of a game on Saturday in Lawrence. So be curious. But, if you need more reason to get excited, guys, Caleb Grill's coming to Manhattan. If you want to get angered up, got Caleb Grill coming to Bramlage Coliseum. So have some fun with that. He's a very likable player in this league. So get fired up, give him a hard time. And hopefully the Cats can to beat the Clones and get some revenge on what happened in Hilton Coliseum, because people need to remember that's a game where K-State was right there with a chance to win at Iowa State. And there's a good chance it's an ugly game with Iowa State's defense and what they do. K-State's going to have to find some answers offensively. And that one, one perk. I keep saying this is a perk, guys, but it doesn't seem to play out that way. K-State keeps playing these games on Tuesday nights, and then their following opponent on Saturday is usually playing on that Wednesday night. So they get one less day to prepare, to rest for that game. Iowa State plays tonight at 8 o'clock against TCU, then has to travel to Manhattan this weekend. You would think that would be an advantage. We'll see. It hasn't worked out that way really to date, but the scheduling should play a little bit of a benefit to the Cats in this one with extra preparation, extra rest. So we'll see what happens with the TCU Iowa State game tonight. But like I said, we'll see if Miles plays for TCU. I think TCU wins.
Let's hope. I mean, sure. I don't know, Cole. I'm not even in like a mood to get real fired. I hate to say it, and I'm being a little pouty. I mean, I will admit it. Like I am 100% being a little pouty. Like I think a lot of the fans are. Again, trying to keep it cool, especially publicly, and especially on Twitter. Like, I get it, guys. We're frustrated. I don't think it's unique to this fan base at all. Every fan base kind of melts down when things start going south. But let's maybe just take a deep breath and be a little bit chill there, as frustrated as you are. Because believe you me, I mean, these guys see group chats during games. Like, I'm as frustrated as about anybody, and I am certainly acting a little bit pouty here right now. But I am also trying to – I very much remember how much fun this season has been that I wasn't expecting, and I believe in these guys. I believe in the coaching staff, and I'm going to be there on Saturday, and let's do it. I mean, let's turn it on, turn this thing around, get a win over Iowa State. That would be nice and help everybody feel a lot better. But that's about the best I can muster for you right now, Cole. That's about the best.
One thing I did want to touch on, and I guess I'm not trying to defend someone that absolutely melts down or is completely inappropriate toward a coach or a player, because I don't think that's okay. I think you need to steer clear from that when there is lines that can be crossed or whatever. Some of the stuff that's out there I don't think is terribly crossing the line. I think it's just frustration pouring out in terms of like what everyone tends to see on social media. But what I will defend is those that try to portray that it's worse in the Kansas State circle or the Kansas State stuff. It's not. People were like, oh, I saw it out there. It's like, oh, this team lost. I bet they're not going to melt down. It took me 5 minutes on, I think it was Monday night when I saw that, to go search 5 basically different Twitters of different fan bases. There was 5 of them. I think it was Texas, North Carolina, West Virginia, and 2 others. I was like, oh, let's see if I see the same, because they were all coming off a loss. Let's see if I can see if they are having the same emotions that Kansas State Twitter tends to after a loss. All 5 teams, it was the same. And guess what? I probably saw at least 10 tweets from those 5 fan bases demanding that coach be fired. Texas was in first place. Like, it's not just Kansas State. I'm not saying it's okay for those that cross the line. It's not. But just let's cool our jets a little bit that it's like exclusively so much worse than the Kansas State. We all live in our silos that we think it's just bad because we're in our Kansas State silo. But it's that way everywhere. There's bad actors everywhere.
Yeah, I'll just point this. A part of the reason that I feel the need to stick up there is just because it's the fans have taken a beating here, even when things were going well. We remember all the consternation about rent free and everything that was in Barry Brown coming on Twitter and fighting with people, and it was just. I'm here for getting better. I'm here for killing the chant. I'm here for, I think we've taken strides as a fan base for sure with KSU and all that. And it's been great. And I think we need to be pushed and be a little bit uncomfortable. However, it is not because K-State is some unique fan base out here. Jerome Tang is trying to build something unique, and to be a unique fan base would be to move away from some of that a little bit, and that's great. Love to see the progress that's happening there, and there is definite progress this year. But yeah, it's Twitter in 2023. This is how people are, and there's a lot of love and adulation, and constantly all day when things are going well, loving everybody up. That's a double-edged sword. Then you start to lose on the back end. It's going to be the opposite way. So I just feel like the fans have taken a lot of arrows throughout the year here, and a lot of criticism, and that can be a good thing in a lot of ways, but I also don't want it to go over the top and be unfair. You can find Kansas tweets from the last couple of years of people asking Bill Self to be fired because people freak out and melt down after losses. And he's the best coach in college basketball. You will find it anywhere. I promise you will find it anywhere, and this fan base is not any different than anybody else.
Absolutely. Two more things for me is they're trying to build this passionate, very supportive fan base. Passion goes, right or wrong, passion goes in two ways. Whether it's good or bad, passion works in two ways. And if you want to talk about Twitter in 2023, just ask Cole what he gets from even Texas fans at this point.
Look, what I would say to that is, it would suck to be, if I was a family member of somebody on the team, I wouldn't want to be on Twitter. You see that stuff, you're going to see the good and bad, and I understand people overreact emotionally. They're very close to it. And I know we've seen some of players' families get upset on things being said on social media. That's just the nature of social media. It sucks, but I can speak to how awful the place Twitter is. John can, DY, you can too. You've gotten stuff in your mentions plenty of times, but I'll just say, when K-State lost to Texas and I put out that video of, Brody make a prediction before the game, and all he did was literally say that K-State was going to win, give a score, that Marquise was going to have a career high, didn't say anything about Texas. My mentions were loaded. I got probably 150 replies after that game, and most of them were attacking a 6-year-old, which I thought was off limits. And then I got several DMs. I had a Texas fan invite me to a group chat of 11 other Texas fans on Twitter, and all of it was, I accepted, and I went in, and it was 11 people talking shit on Brody and calling him a bitch and just coming at me. So look, that's Twitter. There are a lot of awful people out there that hide behind a keyboard and don't put their real name or face to things, that say things. And so I just hope that, the players, the family members recognize that this is just the nature of social media. It sucks, but it's not representative of the majority of the fan base. And people say things in the heat of the moment, and I've been guilty of it too. Instant reactions during games before, where I say things that I regret down the road and wish I wouldn't have tweeted that out. And I've become better at that. And so I just hope that people realize these guys love K-State. The fans love K-State. They love the team, the players, the coaching staff. And, there's just some hot takes that come out at times that are maybe over the top.
And by the way, not only is it not going to be any different anywhere else in college basketball, it's going to be the same if you go to the NBA. If these guys are trying to get to the league and you're going to be in the NBA, go play for the 76ers. See how Philly handles it. How you guys doing, Philly? How you doing right now? Feeling okay? Feeling good as a city? Huh? There we go. I'm back, baby. All right, the Chiefs brought me back around. See, that's the only thing that can do it right now. Cole, I'm about to literally go walk over to the Super Bowl parade as soon as we get done here. Anybody else want to come? DY, come to the parade with me?
No.
Okay. I'm not one for that type of crowd. So.
Okay, well, now who's the soft, pouty one? You guys are the soft, pouty one. I'm the fun, positive one. All right, good vibes, baby.
I'll watch it on TV, and we'll be together against Iowa State on Saturday in Bramlage Coliseum, John, and I'll be there lifting your spirits up. I'll get you some Ben Holiday bottled in bond bourbon. I'll sneak in to Bramlage. I hope K-State security is not listening. So,
I'm hoping that Aaron Rodgers will be traded within the next couple months.
Whoa. Yeah, somewhere right now, Aaron Rodgers is in a complete pit of darkness, getting his food slipped through the little slot in the door.
Maybe that's what we should do, guys. You know what? Maybe we need to have a darkness retreat, and we'll come back refreshed.
A 4-day darkness retreat for 3 months.
This is a perfect ending to the pod.
I'll find a place in the woods. I'll find a place for us in the woods, guys, and we'll sit in a cabin in the dark and not say anything.
Well, that's true. Cole lives out in Gardner, so by the time it's there, it's all wooded area anyway.
All right.
South of Lincoln.
Yeah, very, very, very funny. I'm closer to Spring Hill than I am to Gardner. Anyways, yeah. Well, I mean,
this is our funnest hour. This is.
I mean, after the Baylor football game in 2012, I was at my mother-in-law's lake house and in Council Grove, and I just walked out and sat in the wooded area for like an hour, and I was honestly just hoping that I would get mauled by like a bear or something and just end it for me, because I was in a dark place that night. Not as dark as 1998, but still.
The greatest turnaround in podcast history exists here today, and it's not one to be taken lightly, boys. We just did it here today. And Cole may be killing the vibes a little bit there with the 2012 Baylor at the very end.
That's my bad.
I'm going to just pretend that we ended on a total high note here. All right. We're going to record a football pod. So let's get out of here and do that. 360 Vodka, Ben Holiday Bottled in Bond Bourbon. Appreciate Jordan Foote behind the scenes, as always, helping us out. Appreciate you guys listening. The sun will come up tomorrow. Whenever you're listening to this, I promise the sun will come up tomorrow. We'll put one foot in front of the other. Take care.
Thanks for watching this production of KC Sports Network, the fastest growing sports media network in Kansas City. Check out these videos that feature our team of more than 15 former players, insiders, and analysts, bringing you the best Chiefs coverage you can find. Entertain, educate, inform. KC Sports Network.